Hello and welcome back to Run It Back, Australia's #1 award-winning live Valorant podcast right here from Joshua Swift's basement. And I am joined today by the esteemed Kevin Avril Walker.
Cool. Awesome. Yes, thank you very much. And you know what? Just to make sure that we're a legit podcast, I reckon what we can do is, you know how you got a green screen behind you? We could put a fireplace right there and then we'll be solid.
Yeah. I'm actually seated in a leather chair. It's just black. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this week. There's been lots going on in Oceanic Valorant. I mean, if you haven't been paying attention, this is your time to catch up because a lot's happened. First Strike's been going on. There's been quite a bit of controversy around First Strike. Kevin got some teeth kicked out. That's a pretty big thing. No casting for the big man. How are you feeling?
Let's just clear something up. So if I sound weird right now, I have had teeth removed. If anyone kicked them out, it would have been me. I kicked my own teeth out. You know what? If you're gonna swing at me, I'm just gonna hold up. I'll just do it myself. I'm gonna remove it myself, please. Just take a bit of a self swing there, and had some teeth removed. So yeah, my mouth is a bit wonky right now. Can't really speak super well. I don't think. It probably sounds okay. It probably doesn't sound the best though. So apologies for that.
Hey, look, what can't you do? You're a multi-talented man, honestly. I'm very impressed by every talent that I learn from you every show. Now you're telling me that you can be a dentist? Well, impressive.
No.
Anyways, it's enough expressing Kevin's talents because we've got a very talented player on the podcast that we want to bring in today. And he is rather quite the innovative player and quite the innovative team. Old mate Pixel from Wildcard is joining us today. And how are you going, mate?
Good, fellas. How are we?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, if it was doing this last week, it would be Pixel from Notic. So congratulations on getting signed this week. How are you boys feeling?
Yeah, good. It was a bit of a drawn-out process. I think it was probably one of the worst-kept secrets. But yeah, it's good. Loving being with our Wildcard. Good bunch of blokes, so yeah.
Another big org stepping into the OC Valorant space. If you haven't heard of Wildcard before, they also have a team in Rainbow Six Siege in Oceania. The #1 team in Rainbow Six Siege. They went to the Six Invitational. I've had the pleasure of interviewing those boys many a time throughout doing Siege coverage for Snowball. They've also got some other teams based in North America. So I guess what does it feel like for you to go from on-sign to such a big org and an international org at that?
Knowing everyone else is pretty much the best in their fields a bit. A bit of a, I don't know, it sets the bar pretty high. But that's what the team's about. We want to be the best in the region, up there, performing top 4 at least. So it's good. I like it. It feels like we're in a well-respected org. Albeit I mightn't have known about it before they picked us up, but they're pretty cool.
You don't say that. You knew about them. They were great.
Oh yeah, I knew it just as much as Legacy and all that kind of stuff. Love them.
Was Notic an org as well, or were you guys kind of transferred from an org? Were you guys orgless before?
Notic was ran by a guy called Malice, so it was kind of an org, like just one team org.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much what it was. He was looking to branch out, and then Wildcard came along. So yeah.
Cool. And I guess the big story from this is you guys kind of came from nowhere. Like, who was Pixel before Valorant?
I played CS at like a pro level on and off for a fair few years since I was like, I guess 15 or 16. But I was in and out of the scene heaps. So I've got some health issues that pop up every now and then. But just the CS gamer, pretty much like all the other blokes at the top at the moment. Like your Tuxes, your Texas, Dick Stacy, all that jazz. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
And what you're kind of CS maybe getting a bit stale for you, or you're looking for something new, and just Valorant's coming out at the right time. What kind of drew you in?
Yeah, I hadn't played CS in a while. I'd been doing my uni. I'd actually distanced myself from gaming quite a bit. And then I saw Valorant come up, and I'd watched a couple of streams of some people, and I thought that kind of looks interesting. Let's see how it goes. I jumped on the beta, and the rego felt pretty damn good for having 180 ping constantly. And then I guess fell back in love with the game. So here we are.
And which uni degree has suffered as a result?
I did criminal justice and psychology, but then I jumped over recently, so I'm studying now while playing. I'm doing accounting.
Okay.
So yeah, a bit off the off the same kind of area, but I think accounting's a more stable job for me.
It's still quite the jump when you think about it, though. So, and it's one hell of a thing. And speaking of someone who's still in uni, is juggling uni and whatever the hell you're doing outside of uni is just bonkers. So, hats off to be able to do that while you're still pursuing this Valorant stuff. So then, like, when did you kind of make the click to like maybe look at making a team? If you've been out of the CS scene for a while, you come into the new scene trying to join a team. Why did you make that decision instead of just maybe going, I want to play this casually while I sit by and do my degree?
To be honest, it kind of came very, very randomly. I was asked to fill in for, I'm not sure what the team was called at the stage, but it was me, Godjez, Diggy Dog. I can't remember the last two, Manly and someone else. It was just a one-day comp that popped up. And afterwards, they asked me to play in their team, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a crack, see how we go. And then, yeah, it was really kind of unintentional. Then after that lineup evolved into no tick, which now evolved into wildcard. So bits and pieces. I think I'm the only remaining person from that lineup, but yeah, here we are. So,
and I guess that's a good basis for like what wildcard was. But I feel like the wildcard roster only really started taking names, at least in my eyes, while you guys were a very strong team throughout ROV and the tournaments leading up to that. The Mex Invitational, I feel like, is the cream of the crop for what this team has achieved so far. And look, I'm going to have to always bring this up on Kev, when Kev said that you guys had a 100% chance of not making it through. But, like, did you guys actually feel like underdogs heading into Mex? Because I feel like that was like a really big statement tournament for you guys.
To be honest, no, I definitely felt extremely confident versus Avant and Kanga, which so when Kev said that, we kind of used it as like fuel. Like obviously didn't hold anything against him, but I thought I'd have a little jab at him on Twitter just for a bit of a laugh, bit of fun banter. But versus Order, I thought if we got him on Ascent, we could take him out, and we got him on Ascent and threw a lead twice, unfortunately. But I guess we kind of surprised ourselves a little bit, but that expectation of being a top 4 team definitely was there already. And I'm extremely proud of how everyone played. So we did well.
So, see, I like that take as well, because you see what happened here is I gave you guys a bit of shit. You did really well in Mex, and then I took the foot off the gas, and then you kind of did a little bit more in First Strike. So I think the next thing for me to do is shit talk your team again, and then you'll do better. I think that's how our it'll work from now on, and then you guys will improve as a team. So I'm glad I could have been a source of fuel for you guys. I'm glad that it improved your team a little bit, gave you a bit of hunger. So, I genuinely was both surprised and pleasantly surprised, and just, I guess, pleased with the result that you guys made, because, again, it was a team, you guys were a team that were definitely kind of dark horses for me. And looking at how stacked Mex generally was, obviously in hindsight, 2020, you look back and you say, oh, X and Y team didn't do so well and other teams did much better. But, hindsight's always going to be 2020. I feel like at the time when you look at the group, I felt like Kang was pretty strong. I feel like based on their past results, that would have been a fair thing to say. They went 0-3. But then we look at First Strike, and then Kanga ended up beating you guys again. So, I think teams are still changing strengths and changing how they appear on the day all the time. So it's hard to say who's going to be good on a given day, unless you're like specifically Order or EXO or other teams that are a bit more established, and probably just those two, really. I mean, Legacy have had kind of shaky results, to be fair. You guys did quite well in Mix, and then you came to First Strike a little bit more shaky. So outside of maybe the top two, it's a little bit more shaky below that one. So, I mean, I feel like, at the time, based on the knowledge I had, I didn't know what your full roster was either, to be fair. I knew you guys had a few guys remaining. I felt Diggy Dog was still there. And look back on the past RV results, I'm like, yeah, you guys lost a decent amount of members. I don't know who's on your new roster. Seems like, you guys struggled a bit in LPL as well. I don't know the full context of that. And so it was like, you know what? Based on this and based on the fact that Kanga and Avant look pretty good, I'm pretty sure those are the teams that are going to make. Those teams got a better shot at making it out. And, obviously you look back now and it's a different story, but that's kind of how it was at the time.
What a wholehearted apology.
No, I didn't apologize. I'll go back. I wouldn't change a thing, man.
No, he's explaining his logic. It checks out.
I'll go back and say,
all right. We're gonna end this show when Kevin flames Pixel as motivation. That's how this show is gonna end this time. There you go. That's
what I'm gonna say to him, and then he'll play it and it'll be good. Even though I think it sucks, genuinely.
I mean,
Use that, mate. Use that, man. I'm filling up the gas tank right now.
That's
you guys,
it, literally.
yeah, you guys brought on Infrequent and Noisier ahead of Max, or it was Infrequent and someone else.
Yeah, it was Alex O'Noisia and
Yeah.
Jesse Infrequent. So
Yeah.
Jesse replaced Ninum, and Noisia replaced D-Dog.
Yep. And how was it like working those two guys in? Like, obviously, two very experienced names in CS:GO. They've been at the top of Australian CS:GO throughout one point in their careers. So it's a lot of experience that you're bringing into that roster.
Yeah, well, you obviously know they're going to be sharp because FPS is going to be the same kind of thing. It's just getting used to all the mechanics and that. So I don't know, they're both extremely smart dudes. So bringing them into the roster felt pretty comfortable for me. I've got a long history with both. But yeah, Ninum's a great player. So anytime you switch someone out for Ninum, it's going to feel a bit different. But Jesse's definitely, I feel, he's filled those boots pretty comfortably. I still love Ninum, but Jesse's good as well.
I feel like Jesse was just worth his weight in gold after the match against Pillow this week in First Strike. That, like, if you guys, for the viewers who don't have the context, Wildcard finished this week in First Strike 3-2 to make it through to the top 16. In their final match against Pillow, they were down 4-9, I think, was the score at one point. And you managed to claw it back through some insane fragging by Infrequent on the Jet. Like, it was an absolutely bonkers performance. I tweeted out one of the clips on my Twitter. It was of this nutty ace that he managed to get, and that really stabilized the game for you guys. Like, you could just, it was just so good to watch. It's such a good game. It was such a good game to watch. But obviously for you guys, 3-2 probably wasn't the expected result for First Strike. Kevin said that you guys, were hoping for higher after next invitational. Like, how, looking back in retrospect now at last weekend, like, how do you guys feel about it all up?
Looking at the seedings, pretty damn good. I think if we had to play like at a higher level, we'd be screwed.
Right? Yeah, you played just well enough to do exactly what you need to do to get where you needed to be.
That's right. I planned this perfect.
Nice, guys.
Yeah.
Nice. You guys. What's the Fortress PayPal again? You got that on hand or?
Yeah, just send it to me and I'll pass one to the lads. Yeah.
Well done,
All
well
right.
done. You did manage to kind of squeeze in. I felt like looking at the matchups. I'll be straight. I didn't watch all these games. There's a lot of games in there. Most of them weren't streamed. Looking at the matches as well. I mean, you guys. I think I brought this up already, but you guys lost the Kanga, which would have been, if you went back to the mix results, that would have been like a 100% win for you guys for sure. Looking at Direwolves, maybe you could argue it's more of like a 50-50 kind of game, but I would have, especially now, maybe giving you guys a bit of an edge. Obviously, you play against ex-teammate Ninum there. So, talking about those two matches specifically, like what's going on versus Kanga and what's going on versus Direwolves.
We switched some stuff up on blind. So we played them on blind. It's the exact same. It's like a mirror matchup of what happened last week. I ran a breach instead of a sage, which we're going over as a team right now, whether that's a good pick or not. But that's pretty much the only difference we had. I felt our T side was terrible compared to last week, and I don't know, they walked over us. They played really well, so props to them. But yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Just they played good, we played bad, they beat us. Direwolves, they're just a really good team. I respect them. All of them are pretty damn good players. You got Lou, Kyoto, Leon, and Ninum and all that. So don't know. I think people underrate them a lot. I think they're a really people say they're a really good team, but they're a really good team. Like, definitely.
You reckon they're top 4?
Yeah. Yep.
Like above you guys, or what do you like?
Wildcard one.
I'm gonna back myself.
Wildcard
I'm gonna
right
back
now.
myself in here. So I'd say we're top 4. I'd say we're third on our day. I'd put them at 4th.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
so
third
it's-
on your day
it's
at
like-
Max.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it's you guys, Direwolves, XO order, and that's your top 4, and then everyone else is kind of floating a bit.
That's how I see it. Yeah. Yeah.
I like this discussion though, because I feel like in Oceanic Valorant, especially after the Max Invitational and now with First Strike, with the way that the results have panned out, yes, there's the BO1 debate, whether it's a BO1 can be a justifiable way to read results, but then we've also seen the BO3s that happened in the next Invitational. That maybe the top two of EXO versus Order that we thought was there and was clear from the competition actually isn't as far ahead as people thought they once were. Yes, they are still the clear-cut number 1 and 2, whichever order you put them in, but the pack isn't far behind now, I think. Like, and we're seeing this in teams like with Wildcard, with Direwolves, and like there's even new rosters. Like I even think the Gravitas roster can one day, give them another month or two, they can really be punching up towards that top 4 kind of area. The names they have on that team, and hell, Fun Crew, a team that I never even heard of before this weekend, and just came through and cleaned people up and has gotten this much praise. That's a team that sticks together and could also be up there punching. Like I feel like the gap is sort of closing. Like for you guys down at Wildcard, do you feel like you're closer to Order and EXO than you've ever been before?
Yeah. When you saw him got beaten by Legacy, it kind of felt like a bit of a chip in the armor for EXO. And then when we did so well against them on Ascent, we blew like the lead through a lead. It's the same kind of thing. It felt like, all right, we're on the same level as these guys. We just need to polish up our stuff a little bit. But I'd still see those two as the top 2, and someone's going to really do something to shake those 2 up, and hopefully it's us or Direwolves is my bet. But yeah, they're pretty solid teams.
Like, looking at the first strike table for you, Kev, like if this was like taken as like a snapshot of like if this was the definitive rank 1 to 16 at the region right now, like, do you feel like the competition's getting closer, or is it the case of being BO1s means that it's a little bit of a red flag or a false flag?
So I think you have to look at who missed out to say like, oh, is this the definitive top 16? So the notable teams that missed out would have been like Team Bliss, which is Bullet's team. You've got Pants Down, who've now disbanded as well. Teams like, I don't know, I mean, now you start to go down a little bit more.
Paradox is the big one for me. Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, though, like you have to look at, who teams are beating or not. Paradox losing to 95X. I don't even know who that team is. No flame here. That's just how it is. There's a lot of new teams in here. Like I think everyone likes ShadowNet, but I've not seen them post up any results just yet. So I'm not super hot on them at the moment. Fighting for Freedom is like a stream team. Good dudes though. There's like Boomster and Co on that team. They're a good bunch. But they're not reaching top 16. I'm not too sure who's an overt element and some stuff. So yeah, maybe you could say there's a couple of teams that you would if you play the best of 3 or best of 5, possibly they could have snuck in top 16. But I look at the current top 16 and I don't think it's really controversial at all. Like looking through these rosters, there's a few rosters that I'm not super familiar with, like Momentum Base. Not too sure who's on that team. Nebula as well. That's a new team. Yes and no. It's got a Kraken on it, but yeah, there's definitely teams on there that I'm not super familiar with. But at the same time, I think for the most part, this is the kind of top 16 you expected. Fun Crew is obviously the other big outlier. Like I had no idea who Fun Crew was before this, and they came in big time. So that's probably the biggest X factor, and that's like, excuse the pun here, like a wild card as well coming through in terms of a team that just had no idea that even existed. So couple of those guys coming in would mean that guys like teams like Paradox end up missing out.
I guess now is as good a time as ever to have a look at the groups for First Strike this weekend. So in the Group A, we've got EXO, Kanga, Mindfreak, and Nebula. In Group B, we've got Direwolves, McTeam, Riot, and Wildcard, Pixels Boys. In Group C, we've got Avant, Fun Crew, Gravitas, and Momentum Based. And in Group D, we've got Legacy, Order, Rip and Tear, and Water Bottle. Now, there has been a lot of discussion in the community this week, may or may not have been led by me, about the seeding for these groups. Some feel that they are unfair. I agree with that. Before we, ruin Pixel's chances of actually making it through groups by getting him disqualified for him saying the wrong thing, I just want to say that the way that the groups were seeded, I feel disappointing, because I feel like there was a lot more potential for the competition to be fairer than it currently is if there was a thing like snake seeding that was used instead of what Fortress said were admin discretion in terms of how teams made their runs. And the groups would look entirely different. Like, hold on,
Yeah.
Okay, you talk for 2 minutes while I find this tweet.
Well, the thing is, the thing about admin discretion is it always comes down to like possible human error. When you open up to human error, that's when things get a bit shaky. I think everyone is okay. Look, if the seeds ends up looking bad because that's all the tournament was based on the results, then that's whatever. That's just the rules. That's just how the machine does it. That's just how, it gets spat out near the end. But if it's like down to admin discretion or like a human person does this and just says like, oh, I think this team deserves to be here, right? I think this team should be seated in this area. And it's probably based on things. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they would have based on certain things, but even then, it becomes like for any admin to be like, well, if this team beat that team, then that means they're better than this team. They have to have a ranking in their head already. They have to have a personal or at least some sort of guideline among all the admins or individually in terms of what their power ranking is. And in their own mind, in their power ranking, it has to say, this team is better than this team. So if you play this team in the Swiss and you beat them, then that matters extra. That matters a little bit more, a little bit less. So it ends up being at least somewhat opinion based because you have to come up with an opinion of what you believe is the power ranking to then base off like how the seedings work in your mind. If that makes sense, I don't know if I explained that properly, but you introduce human error into this, and that's when it doesn't feel good.
And yeah, like when you look at like the groups, if like they were seated differently, we're getting an entirely different picture. Like we're looking at a group of like Exo Riot Avant Mind Freak, or like Rip and Tear Direwolves Gravitas Wildcard, which kind of, that's a bit of a harder group if say Pixel was to pick that one up. Getting Rip and Tear Direwolves and Gravitas at 3 teams who are probably considered to be in the top 8 of the region right now. In one is not a fun run to make it through, but hey, at least you're not Legacy.
Okay, if you're
Legacy are living that right now.
If you're a top 4 team, you're expected to come first in your group anyway, debatably. So it's like I don't see it like if you are truly a good team, and if Wildcard really is a top 4 team, and I think you guys have the potential to be shown by previous results, then you're not scared of any group. Unless you're literally in a group with Extra and Order, which is not possible, you're not actually scared of any group. So I don't think it would have really mattered that much if you are like if you're the top 4 team, it's everyone else in that group that's scared of you as wildcard, right? Is theoretically. So but I still think at least, the groups that you just read out, Ducky, is that in theory what it would have been if it was done on like snake seeding or some of the
in snake seeding, yeah.
Yeah, so but those don't sound bad. I mean, those sound like potentially some of them sound like tougher groups, especially for wildcard, but if it's fair, if it's like based on Swiss results, I mean, let's be honest here. You guys finished in what place technically in the Swiss? 13?
I think 12. It says 12.
So so you'd technically be like a lower seed walking into that group because you'd be coming in lower than like Gravitas, for example.
Yeah, literally.
And Order actually surprisingly didn't do super well in the Swiss either, so they would have had maybe a tougher group.
Stage, yeah.
Whereas I think have Order been gifted a group here? It looks like they kind of have. Like Order got kind of gifted a group with Water Bowl in it, when technically they could have been in the same group as like Direwolves. Like you guys could have swapped places with them. They could have been the same group as EXO. That's possible. But Order kind of this is where, and I'm not gonna accuse or speculate too hard, but in theory, an admin could go like, well, I still think Order are like the second best team in Oceania, even though they got like 10th or something like that.
Yeah, they were 10th.
So we're gonna put them as second seed in Group D because I still think they're that good. When really, because they got a similar result to you guys, maybe they should have been third seed. Would it have like? Would them changing spots with Rip and Tear have made a difference? Probably not, but they could have been the Gravitas and the Fun Crew group. They could have been you guys and Direwolves group. They could have been the Mind Freak and the Extra group is basically what I'm saying. And it comes down to an admin saying, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm just going to put Order here because I think they're good.
Yeah. Either way, I feel like the general consensus over this discussion that's been had over the last few days is that the seeding has been weird. But obviously the teams are going to respect that and just play it out. And look, you said it yourself, Pixel. You got a pretty good group for what you could have asked for. I think your first matchup's McTeam.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, My team are like as a team, you only really ever see them around at these bigger events. They've still got like some really good players on them, but how are you guys feeling heading into a matchup like that?
We're mates with those blokes, so it's going to be kind of
Yeah.
an interesting one. I don't know. It's one of those teams that could just rock up on the day and try and roll you, but at the end of the day, hopefully our practice and like preparation pays off, all that kind of jazz. But we're feeling confident, obviously. At the same time, we're not going to underestimate anyone.
What's the format of the groups? Is it still BO1 or what?
I think it's best of 3.
I think it's
Oh,
BO3,
wait.
yeah.
BO3
Yeah.
whole way? Okay, cool. Because otherwise, what I was going to say is like, a team like McTeam could possibly just do this like one map upset and that's it.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been quite scary.
Yeah. But like, look, BO3s. We got it finally. BO3s. Let's go.
Should,
It's just. Pardon?
should we just go over the groups first of all before we get in any
I did that
format?
earlier. I did that earlier.
in terms of like the expectations for each of the groups though, because we haven't like really talked
Yeah.
about like
we can
what
do
we expect of
predictions.
groups.
We can do predictions.
Yeah, or it's kind of like it's more like soft predictions. It's not really like it's not really anything too major. For example, I'm pretty sure Wildcard have a 100% chance to not make it out Group B. So, fuck
Yeah,
you.
I agree. 100%.
Don't at me. I don't care. I don't care. You're not making it out. I don't even know who's on your team. I know you're on the team, and that's about it.
We just talked about some
Sage
of the other
mains.
players earlier.
I heard him frequent's okay though. He's like an alright dude. He's pretty. So obviously we expect EXO to be pretty up there. I don't think anyone here disagrees with that statement. But the rest of it seems interesting because Nebula are a potential dark horse, but I don't really see them beating Mind Freak or Kanga in a best of 3. I think Mind Freak and Kanga should be better than that. Emphasis on the should here. So really for me, it's IXO and then either Kanga or Mind Freak, depending on who shows up better. For me, Mind Freak have maybe had slightly better results in the past, so I maybe rate Mind Freak slightly higher. I think Kanga have been a bit more shaky in terms of the back and forth. But I'm still going to toss it up between those two. It should be IXO first, and then either Kanga or Mind Freak.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, what Kanga's going to rock up? Is it going to be the first strike close qualifier Kanga, or is it going to be the Max Invitational Kanga? Because
Exactly.
that really depends on what you say. Because if it's the Max Invitational Kanga, I don't see them making it through. But if it's the first strike qualifier Kanga, there's a better chance for them. Like Pixel, looking at Group A, who do you think's the better out of the two?
I'd say it'd be EXO and Mind Freak if Swirl's popping off. Swirl's
True.
not doing his thing. I think Kanga can sneak through.
Swirl's the most hot and cold. As someone that was on the team with Swirl, like he's the most hot and cold player in officials because it's like he'll either go. He by the way, he plays super well in scrims, but sometimes in officials, it just doesn't happen for him. I don't know why. It just doesn't happen, and then you kind of get the Mind Freak that happened in mix where Swirl's kind of like bottom fragging, didn't look too good. I'm not like flaming him or anything. Like he knows this already. Like I've coached him, but yeah, I mean, I think if Swirl showed up in officials the way he does in scrims, that team would be like so much better. And it's not because of him either. It's obviously a team thing. Everyone's got to show up, but I think most people look at that team, that roster, and Swirl's probably like a clear name on that team, being like, here's a guy that can like seriously just put the entire team on his back, or in officials sometimes maybe be a bit invisible. So it's got to. We're looking at what side of the coin gets flipped on that one for Mind Freak.
Moving on to Group B. I'm going to post this as one way. Pixel, which team out of Group B is going to be joining you in first strike?
Be
Are you
Direwolves.
first or second? Are you first or second in this group?
He's first. He's winning first strike, mate. Just let
Exactly.
him pick Let's let him pick someone who's getting out.
I think it'd have to be Direwolves, right? Direwolves are an extremely strong team, like I said before. I don't know if there'd be any upsets, to be honest, but Direwolves are my pick to take the group, or with us. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But you're gonna like
Specifically,
you're gonna like 13-0 them.
I will second. Or are you guys quite confident about that, or what?
To be honest, I don't know. It's a coin flip. I need to VOD review a couple of their stuff and see how they go, but we'll put in the work and give it the best effort.
Do you feel like you have like a semi advantage that like you've played with Ninum before on a team and like that in alone? Like if you can figure out Ninum, like one of the biggest fraggers on that team, I think he had the best.
It didn't help that last time, did it?
No, well, I hadn't played him like Ninamon Haven's Enigma. We haven't really played Haven that much together. On Ascent, I have a fair idea of what he's going to do, but I don't know if it's going to help out. The dude's just cracked. So,
Dude, if you play Ascent versus them, and you pick Sage, Ninim's just going to sit on. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm memeing a little bit. He's going to sit on B and just look at the window the whole time. As soon as you boost up, he'll just headshot you. That's just what's going to happen.
all right, I hope he does it. I want to see what happens.
Learn your tricks already.
Just don't Killjoy booster, right? Just don't Killjoy booster.
Yeah, Scream made that mistake, didn't he?
Guild did it in the European one and got DQ'd for it against G2.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, is that the band one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one on I don't know what people call it. I called it Speedway when I was on a team. The first one when you come out and you just boost on the Killjoy turret with the Sage Wall and you can see all the way through.
I want to bring it back a little bit. I want to see if maybe Riot could pull up some upset potential here, but really it should be Direwolves wildcard like you mentioned. So probably one of the easiest groups to just be like, yep, it's these two, and then move on. So
it might be one of the easier groups to predict, but I feel like this is also one of the groups that could have a tendency to go to 3 maps in every series. Because I feel like a few of these teams on their day can definitely perform above expectation when you look at Riot and McTeam.
More akin to that. I think A is way more likely to go to 3. Even from Kanga and Mindfree. Like if Mindfree and Kanga play the best game, I think they can take EXO to 3. So A to me is that kind of group for sure. I think B maybe, but at the same time, look, if Wildcard and Direwolves are cut above, McTeam and Riot might just both get O2. And then you're going to have a banger of a best of 3 between the top 2, and then we'll see what happens.
All right, moving on to Group C, we've got Fun Crew, Avant, Gravitas, and Momentum Based. Fun Crew, absolutely amazing guys. Probably the story of First Strike so far is their journey through. I wrote a piece about one of their players, Fleshist, which Swifty thought was a meme originally when I sent him the player's name. He was like, oh yeah, this piece is going to be so flesh. And then I hit him with the copy and he was like, oh wait, it's actually the player's name. But you can go check that out on snowballesports.com right now. A wonderful interview from his journey from FIFA, of all titles, to Valorant. Yeah, he was a FIFA pro.
FIFA player?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just remember that, Kev. You know, there's a FIFA player out there that could frag
That'll be bringing some good First Strike puns in.
But this is an interesting group because I feel like this is a no questions asked. This is the weakest group out of the 4. But I feel like it's very tightly contested, at least between Avant, Fun Crew, and Gravitas. Sorry to Momentum Base, I don't give them much of a chance of getting through, but I feel like the other 3 teams are very close.
It's only weak if you look at Avant and Gravitas and you say these are not good enough teams. Like if you don't rate those 2 teams, then it feels like a weak group. But like on paper, those 2 teams should be really good. I have personally not seen Fun Crew play yet, which I should, maybe go back and look at them. But based on how they played so far, based on results anyway, Fun Crew are probably going to be the team in this group to potentially make the upset happen. They've already taken down Order in a best of 1. That's the asterisk you have to put on there. You have to debate whether that would have happened in a best of 3. But now that we are moving to best of 3s, that's when you have to really start exploring that, because do Fun Crew beat teams like Avant in a best of 3? Do they beat Gravitas in best of 3? I was going to say, based on experience, maybe not, but Gravitas also not an experienced team either, although their players are, at least some of the players are more experienced in Valorant, some of the other players are more, got a lot of experience coming through from CS, so they're still a team that has a bit of backing behind them in terms of expected skill level. So this to me is like a 3-team group. I think I agree with you, Ducky. Momentum based, probably the outlier for me, probably sitting in number 4, a little bit sorry about them. Sorry about that for them, but Fun Crew, Avant, Gravitas should be the 3 here. And the thing is, we've already seen Avant kind of crumble in mix, so I'm a little bit shaky on them. We've seen Fun Crew kind of do well, but I don't know if that's consistent. I don't know if that's just like BO1 luck or BO1 advantage or whatever. Maybe it doesn't work for them in BO3s. So there's those 2 things there, and Gravitas I just feel like are still not tested enough, so maybe. But Gravitas, if they click properly and their members play well, realistically, this on paper, this group should go Avant, Gravitas, Fun Crew, Momentum based, but I honestly don't know how the top 3 are going to go.
I mean, when I interviewed Freshers from Fun Crew, he was like, they've scrimmed top teams like Order before, and it was like a super hard time. So it's like they were on the radar for some of the teams. Like, have you scrimmed them, Pixel? I don't
think we have, to be honest, but
yeah,
watching them on the weekend was pretty impressive.
But yeah, and like, there's been a lot of praise for these guys coming out for just how they've been doing in ranked as well, apparently. So like, maybe it was just a case of they hadn't played in any tournaments because they went around in ROV and OVO, so they didn't play in any of the Ignition Series events. They're only playing in LPL Amateur, so they're not playing in Evo or Challenger. And I know that we've spoken about this, that like Evo and Challenger isn't necessarily the greatest representation of how the scene is right now, but you don't hear of any teams in Amateur making it this far. So it's really quite the sight to see such a new team on the block really trying to shake up shake up the scene, really, because they came in and they didn't even just make top 16 by the skin of their teeth. They made it pretty convincingly by the end of it. How do you see Group C panning out for yourself, Pixel? Like, do you think it's going to be pretty close, or?
I think Gravitas and Fun Crew will top it. I love Avant. I got some mates in there, but I think they might fall short of Fun Crew. That's just my opinion on it.
What about those teams makes you feel that way?
Just playing Avant before and watching Fun Crew a little bit, just kind of lean towards Fun Crew. Gravitas, I think, would be your solid are going to get through. And then I guess it could go either way with Fun Crew and Avant, but my pick is Fun Crew. And momentum base, like, I haven't seen enough of them to be able to give a correct call on it, but I know off the top of my head, Gravitas and Fun Crew are pretty damn strong. So, yeah.
I think that's fair because, like I said, Avant to me, you look at Mex, you look at ROV, you look at every single tournament they play in. You might as well throw LPL in there a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like Avant had this kind of power in OVO where they came top 4. They were generally very good. They've always looked fairly decent, but as we've gotten through more officials and more tournaments, it just feels like they've been sliding down a little bit, and now they kind of feel like more of like a middling kind of team, which doesn't sound great. But I mean, just look at the results, and it's just kind of what it says, and it just doesn't feel good. I feel like Avant on paper should be better than they are, but their recent form just kind of doesn't really reflect the reputation they have. So.
Oh, this is going to be a really decisive moment for that core as a whole. Like, we've seen cores already, and you're looking at like Pants Down, who have disbanded as a result of the results in the first strike qualifiers. And I feel like Avant's core, after when you look at their max results and you look at their results since they came second in Conk Moto, hasn't been stellar. You wonder where the breaking point is for a call like that in Oceania. Like, no matter what scene you talk about, there is always the 3-month roster shuffle. Like, there will be players swapping teams whenever the opportunity arises, and that could be after first strike for Avant. Now moving on to the group of death.
Yeah, D for death. Here we go.
The D is for death because we've got basically all top 8 contenders, mostly top 8 teams in Water Bottle, Order, Rip, and Terran Legacy. I'm very excited to see Pairs versus Panic. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
That's the highlight of the whole tournament.
That
might as well be the grand final.
Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of the games, but that's the only game anyone's going to care about. So that's the one. Put it up. This is 100% group of death for me. Because I think it's the only group where all 4 teams have at least some reasonable cause to say we can make it out. There's maybe less, maybe less so in my opinion for Water Bottle. But even then, like, the margin's not that far off. Like, even if I think Water Bottle was 3 or 4 in this group, only by a small margin, like, they could upset. They could still be potentially top 2. They could catch any of these other teams off guard as well. Rip and Tear are a team that have historically, like Avant, have had shaky results. Rip and Tear have been probably a little bit more solid recently, though. Legacy, good on paper, but at the same time, I mean, you look at how they've gone through, and they've been kind of having a bit of a slow launch. They haven't really kicked off the way you thought they would. Only finished 3-2 in the Swiss as well. Lost to Gravitas, lost to a team called Wheels. Don't know who's on Wheels. And, did not probably the best in Mex either. So I think Legacy probably still have a little bit more to prove. Order is still Order, but Order lost some games in the Swiss as well. So this group ends up being 4 teams where it's maybe a little bit shaky in the Swiss results, but also 4 teams based on like reputation. You'd say every single team again probably has a bit of a claim to potentially getting top 2.
I feel like for me, I think Legacy, it's a question of, are they too fresh? Like, this is a roster that is still very new. Their first tournament was Max, and they've only been together. Yeah, the core's probably been together for a bit longer than before Max, but even then, you're looking at a team that's only been together for like 2 months at most, and that's being generous. Give them 6 weeks. And you have to wonder if that's too fresh of a team to break through some of these more established rosters where you look at Order, Rip and Tear, and Water Bottle, who and at least the cores of those rosters have
What
been
about
together
Fun
for
Crew
at
though?
least 3 months.
Is that a fresh team though?
Fun Crew's been together for actually quite some time. Like, as a core, they've been together since the...
What about your team, Pixel? Because your team, with this current roster, like, how long has that been together for? In terms of being fresh?
The core three's been together for quite a while. So me, Comes in Sicko. But Jesse and Noisia have only been around for, I guess, a month or so.
So the only other team you could say is fresh is maybe Gravitas.
Yeah,
And
Gravitas would be the same as Legacy.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Gravitas are the same in that decision.
I mean, like, I think I agree in some cases where maybe Legacy is too fresh, but at the same time, like, do you think Gravitas is too fresh? Because I feel like we don't put the same, you know.
I think there's a different. I think there is a difference between the two teams though, because when you look at Legacy, like, it's not just that they're a fresh team, but also like you look at Deoxide and Gaza, and they're pretty fresh players. Deoxide hasn't played before Legacy, didn't play in a team since the beta tournaments, basically. Gaza never played on a Valorant team before Legacy. And so you've really got this team where it's Ferg trying to lift Ferg and Zen.
Isn't that literally Gravitas? You look at the Gravitas lineup. Isn't like most of their players haven't played in any Valorant? Like,
no, there's some experience in Valorant on those. I'm 95% sure all those players played in ROV at the very least, like of the final Ignition Series event. They might not have made it far, but I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, like Noz and Clutchy, but like Elsno, Nerox, and Spikes haven't played.
The other three are fresh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they fresh? Okay.
Like into Valorant, yeah, but they got backgrounds in CS.
So you can make the same argument as Legacy, like, oh yeah, it's just like Ferg and Panic trying to lift everyone up, and
Zen, yeah. But I mean, I am kind of making the same argument for both those teams, which is one of the things. Like, I think both teams are really strong, and I think this is the same thing that we can talk around in circles about this group because. Anyone in this group can be first, and anyone in this group can be last, and it's the ultimate D4.
I don't necessarily disagree. I just think like the term "fresh" to me, I don't know if it holds water because then we would have to criticize Gravitas in the same way and say, yeah, I don't know if they're going to get out because they're too fresh. You know what I mean? Like I think more so for me, it's that Legacy kind of haven't lived up to the reputation yet, and maybe they could do that, but. Right now, maybe you're right. Maybe it is just Ferg having to do a bit more heavy lifting from the leadership position. I assume that's what he's doing. Than required right now because maybe based on their results, like you would have expected them to come out a little bit hotter, and they just kind of haven't. I know you would even potentially argue Gravitas came out hotter than that. Like, how did Gravitas go against EXO again? That was a pretty...
that was 13-11. That was the 13-11. I tuned out of that game when it was like 11-2.
So my point here is like both Gravitas and Legacy are like fresh teams, like literally very similar. You got 2 guys that have played a bit more Valorant, 3 guys that haven't, a lot of CS experience, but like Gravitas, I feel like have done slightly better, whereas Legacy kind of haven't. So that's why I feel like the freshness argument doesn't really hold.
Look, I feel like the freshness argument could hold if Gravitas was in this group, because I feel like the reason why this argument is such a big thing is just the way the group is. Look, I was just gonna say this is the most fucked group that you could possibly 100%. Ask for. This is like it's so incredibly hard to call because you've got Water Bottle, who is an incredibly good team coming up the charts now. You've got Order, who
Order's a lock,
the
though,
current
right?
Pardon?
Are they a lock? Order's a lock, though, right?
You
lock Order in top 2.
I'm pretty sure you lock Order and BO3s. You 100% lock Order and BO3s.
Yeah, so that's one.
And they're the current regional champions. If you go by that, you got Rip and Tear, who I think are the hottest up and coming team in the region right now, especially after how they made Mech's top 4.
You just made Pixel sad, but that's fine.
Pixel's already up there.
No, I'm good friends with the Rip and Tear boys.
Look, I'm saying that because Pixel's already up there. Why would he be the hottest up and coming team if he's already making he's basically there? Like, I feel like the Rip and Tear boys have a lot more to prove than the Wildcard boys have, especially.
Wildcard both made top 4 mechs.
Yeah, they came 4th, we came 3rd.
But the difference was also Wildcard with seeded 4th heading into the event, and Rip and Tear was seeded 8th.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, but this is going to be interesting. Anyways, I think that's enough First Strike talk. You can catch all the First Strike action on November 21st. That's this Saturday, live on the Fortress Melbourne Twitch channel. Thank you, Swifty, for switching back off the graphic, and putting it back up for us. That was wonderful. Now we couldn't have Pixel on a podcast about Valorant without talking about his signature pick, can't we, Kev? We really couldn't.
Sure. I
Yeah.
feel like I've already brought it up, but let's get into it.
I think we really need to dive into Pixel Sage because you are the only person who knows. Actually, you're not the only one because it was picked. Who picked it? I was looking at this the other day.
Super
There was
Trooper,
another.
probably?
Yeah, Super picked it twice. In ROV, in First Strike calls. But
Dude,
you're the
Super
only
Troop-
other player. You're the
Super
only other
Trooper
player playing it.
literally just did like a one last ride kind of deal. It's like, oh, you know what? You might as well. I'm pants down. I don't know if we're gonna make it through. Might as well just give it one last go on the Sage. Jump on that car again, give it one last rev. One last ride on the Sage, and just drive into the sunset. That's what Super Trooper just did.
He's like this. He's like, yeah.
I knew it was going to happen too because we scrimmed him the night before and I saw him on stage on Ascent and I was like, I wonder if he's going to wall up every round. And sure enough, pretty much it'd be the wall would pop up. Just sit there waiting for him though. So it's kind of obvious when you know what someone's doing. But like,
Yeah.
I still feel it's pretty strong. Even when you do know, like you got to literally dedicate one person to watch it. And if you got other people flooding the site, it's a bit like chaotic.
So, why do you love Sage so much? Well, that's a very broad question, but
Is it the art? Is it anything else?
you are one of 4% of players. I'm looking at First Strike Oceania stats here, pick rates. One of 4% of players that will pick Sage. Interestingly enough, by the way, Sage does have a small picks percentage on every single map, but generally, before we get into more specific details, what's the deal with Sage and you right now? Like, what's your affiliation there? Like, why do you like it?
I feel like she's good with helping the teammates out. So you can obviously, if someone goes down, the res is a big part of the game. If you take someone out and it's got an early 5v4 advantage, then we retake that position, maybe trade one out. All of a sudden, the 5v4 is literally in our favor because they just res someone. But the slows, even though people say they're kind of nerfed and whatnot, it's still pretty good cutting off rotates. So you like lob a slow in somewhere, and some dude's literally just like slow marching in through this thing. And obviously, the wall, people just don't understand how to use. Like in my mind, people use the wall incorrect. Well, they've got a wrong view on how to use it. I like boosting up.
So you think it's about boosting more so than like cutting off a corner?
I think so.
Like
it depends what kind of map. Like you can use it to boost and cut off spots at some times. And it's really handy in my opinion. But at the same time, someone can shoot it down. But in that time, you can just jump down and shoot them while they're shooting the wall down. It's like it's not as useless as people think, in my opinion. But hey, someone could prove me wrong and just roll me.
I don't disagree that Sage is like not entirely useless in that regard, but I think the main argument always comes down to, but what are you giving up, right? Because if you are picking Sage, you are missing something else. And typically, especially in OS meta right now, usually what you're missing is a breach. And now we even had, I don't know if we talked about this on stream or off stream, but you even mentioned like, oh yeah, I tried the breach and we're still figuring it out and having a bit of debate with the team here. And there's two things to consider here. One, is breach better than Sage overall? And then two, is breach better than Sage for you? And that's a different question because you may have a different opinion or you may have a different like output on that character. For example, maybe you don't feel the breach. Maybe breach just doesn't work for you, but you are quite good on Sage, which you obviously are. But you do that in any other team and it wouldn't work because that team is not going to have someone that's as comfortable in Sage. So it could be like a very specific pick for you, but at the same time, I think you have to look at the argument of like, do you feel like your team is the team going to be missing out because we're picking Sage instead of Breach or instead of another character in that same spot? Because Breach also, by the way, kind of takes up one of the duelist spots because you have basically a permanent Jet. Aside from Split, where everyone runs Raze instead, Jet is like nearly 100% play rate or close enough. She's like the second most picked character in all of Oceania after Omen. So most teams are playing Jet, which means if you're going to play a second duelist, it's probably going to be a flash character like Reyna or Phoenix, except that Breach just has better flashes right now and better utility in general. So most people go Breach for the second duelist. So you're taking that spot right now as the Sage because most teams are going to be running Sova and Cypher, right? Again, outside of Split. So do you feel like because you're taking up that specific spot on the team, is your team missing out on because of that, like in a general sense? And then maybe the second part would be personally for you is like, what's the deal there?
I think breach is extremely handy to have, but it all comes down to how your team uses it. I feel like we're pretty strong when we use Sage, but I'm extremely keen to kind of bring a Sky in because it brings that whole healing factor plus a whole bunch of flashes. And then you've got a little dingo dog to stun
So
someone.
we just combine Breach and Sage into one character for you, Pixel. Well done. There we go.
And kind of Soma, if you think about it. You throw the thing out, it says enemy spotted. Like it's handy.
Okay. Before we get too much into the discussion, first of all the praise I've given for Josh is out the window now with this current poll that's going on in Twitch chat. The second one is here's your kiss, Tony, and here's your wink, Saxley. The third one is apparently chat wants to buy you a body pillow for Sage, Pixel. How do you feel about that?
My missus might be a bit weirded out by that, but we'll run it by her, see how she handles it.
All right, we've got that one cleared. So Christmas for Pixel, Sage body pillow number 1. There
We
you
take
go.
it.
Yeah.
When is Sky available for tournament, by the way?
This weekend.
This
You can
weekend.
use it now.
So we can use it this weekend.
Yes.
Do I dare ask the question of like, do you think? Well, I'm not going to ask you if you're going to bring it out, but do you think teams are going to bring it out?
Well, I thought about it as well. So I think other teams definitely will run it. But you got like a week to get used to it pretty much. It's a bit of a risk, I think. So whether it pays off or not for those teams that do try and run it, it's going to be interesting.
I mean, she's been out for almost 3 weeks now, and I know that there's been teams scrimming with Sky from basically day one. Some teams
Right.
haven't been scrimming with it. And so I guess it comes down to maybe the teams that have been scrimming with Sky since day one are comfortable enough with 3 weeks of practice to put her into some strats. But I think the general consensus where I've talked around the community is like, oh, Sky's going to be a Cypher replacement. No, Sky's going to be a Breach replacement. Like, and people aren't really quite sure where she's going to fit in. And I feel like this is a really weird thing in Oceania right now, because we're the first region, I think, getting access to her, that we have to make these calls ourselves. And
Right.
we're usually sheep in the herd. We're not usually the makers of the meta. We usually follow what other regions do. And so I feel like this is quite a deciding point for Oceanic Valorant, where it's like, do we want to shape the meta, or are we going to wait and see? Because I feel like Sky might see some play, but I don't know whether it's going to be as much as people expect.
Cypher replacement, in theory, yes, but this is like the biggest Cypher crutch region. I think. Like, I don't know. I feel like everyone here has a hardcore reliance on Cypher. Like, I don't know that Osh teams are that willing to give up Cypher, in my opinion. So,
I agree.
You're more likely to see Sky as a Breach replacement for now. Although I think in theory she should be a Cypher replacement. I think the difficulty is like if you are like a hardcore Cypher main, you're probably gonna have trouble transitioning to Sky. It's a very different character. And I don't know that's gonna work out well. Like, in fact, you might even see a Cypher player pick up something else and maybe do a little bit more of a janky role swap than the Cypher player directly onto Sky, unless they're like a very, very flexible player to start with. But we'll see. I would like to see how teams use Sky. I wonder if there have been good scrim results with Sky, and we'll sort of see from there, because I know in theory this sounds like a good pick for someone like Pixel, because it's literally Sage and Breach jammed together into one. So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue when you look at Cypher, her being a Cypher replacement wall, is like when you think like, oh yeah, Cypher nerf heavily. If you want a bit more utility, and you can take Sage because not Sage, so you can take Sky because she's all utility. But Sky needs to play with the team, and the way that Cypher is played is as a lurk, and Sky's kit doesn't work if you play lurk because you don't have anyone around you for the AoE heal. You have to flash and trailblaze yourself, which isn't as effective as doing it for the team. And so it's a really big change when you have to do that. And that's quite possibly the biggest shift of all. So maybe it is a case of the Breach players might swap it out a few times to see how she feels as a Breach replacement before we actually see a true meta shift away from the Cypher and Ose.
She's
yeah. The one thing that I brought this up before is like I'm gonna harp on Pixel Sage, just this a little bit longer, because I'm a Vision Strikers fan, and I quite enjoy watching Korean Valorant. The way Korean Valorant is played is a lot more like a MOBA, and they still use the Sage at a relatively high pick rate. You're looking at like a 20 or 25% pick rate for Sage in those tournaments, just because they like how strong her kit is. And I feel like the fact that Wildcard has been so successful with the Sage on Pixel, and we're starting like, yeah, Super Trooper played it and hands down. But it makes me wonder if other top 16 teams are potentially looking at actually working into their wheelhouse if they watch Korean Valorant more than they say NA or EU, where you only really see it in EU and you never see it in NA.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think on Ascent, she's like extremely strong. You'd be kind of silly not to have a look at her. But on that, talking before about the Cypher replacement, I think imagine a Sky on A and a Breach on B instead of having Cypher. That'd be kind of strong. 3 flashes over here with an AoE heal to deal with all the boys over here. That'd be kind of nutty.
It's great. And that's actually a strong thing for both offense and defense when you look at it in that way.
Yeah.
Because having that amount of flashes allows you to take so much space if you can time it correctly with the right kits. So
You lose smoke,
you know.
so I think losing cages is going to be a big deal. That's the
and-
one thing you can't underestimate. Like people, I think maybe people don't consider, like, you often forget that Cypher cages are a thing. Well, those do end up being extra smokes, and they do bring value. And this is part of like Cypher's kind of lurk role as well, is because you can get to really interesting things placed with cages. You can do a lot of mind games with cages, and you just really like outbrain your opponents with cages and stuff like that. That's going to be something that will be missed. It's going to put a lot more pressure onto like Omen and Jet to cover up, the smokes. Potentially, Jet in particular having to use smokes for more team rather than selfishly, because a lot of Jets play smokes for yourself. You put a smoke to kind of fall off. You put a smoke to dash into for a take, whatever. You're playing the smoke for you more so than the team. So, but now that you don't have cages, you have more limited smokes available. You might have to reconsider that. So I don't know. I don't know what the impact would be, but I think losing the Cypher will be a pretty big deal, and teams are going to have to adapt to how they get information as well. Maybe if teams are still running Sova full time, except for like Split, then you're going to have a better time. But on other maps where you're now missing the Cypher, you're now missing the camera, you have to kind of figure out what you want to do to get that same info again.
Look, what about we just say fuck the smokes and we just go Breach
Just
Phoenix.
YOLO it.
We just go Breach Phoenix, Sky, and Omen. There we go, done. Why do you need smokes if the enemy team can't just see anything for the entire round?
That's true.
Like,
Flash out, and you're in. Boom.
Like, never would I thought that we could see more than 10 flashbangs thrown down banana in a game, but here we are. We got 11 across those 3 characters. I feel sorry for the anchor players.
Yeah, that'd be hell. Screw that.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do it, but someone will troll around and run that comp. And it'll be very interesting to see how we deal with it.
I could see it, like, I could see it happening in NA because NA actually plays a lot of Phoenix, and I can see someone running it for a meme.
How easy is it to shoot the Hawks before they go off?
I think it's one bullet. But you can like maneuver the thing to like just yeet around. If someone's doing it properly, it's pretty hard to hit.
Didn't you see Iron's aim training video the other week?
That's a good example, yeah.
I mean, I guess if that's what all Skies are doing, then it makes things a bit more difficult. But I would have considered maybe the counterplay would just be like,
Kovacs.
Just shoot it forehead. I don't know. Like
count as Kovacs. That's all you need. The dots popping up here and there. Boom.
One more 6 targets. Just do that constantly.
Yep, and you'll be set.
Yeah. Ask Crunchy for his aim training. There you go.
That's it.
Yeah. I'm sure he's figured it out. Look, guys, I feel like that's pretty much a wrap for tonight. We've had an absolute ball. Thank you for coming on Pixel and having a chat with us. Where can we find you?
On Twitter, it is @pixelbox with a 0, and on Twitch, it's the same thing. That's pretty much all my socials. I think I have a YouTube channel, but I never upload, so don't worry about that.
You streaming much nowadays?
I'm getting back into it, just dealing with some like golf issues, playing golf a bit too much, so I need to scrap the golf and maybe stream a bit more. So we'll get into that. But yeah, I plan on starting doing it like daily. So
Hey, are you on handicap?
No, some dude asked me though. I did a nice drive, and he's like, "What's your handicap?" I'm like, "Mate, I have no bloody clue. Like, it's a lucky drive."
You hit ball, go far.
Yeah, exactly.
just hit it forehead.
Just hit. Just
smack it.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Pixel. Be sure to catch him and the Wildcard Boys in action this weekend in the First Strike Rise of Valor Close Qualifiers Group Stage long title on November 21st when they will be facing off against McTeam. Thank you so much for joining us, Pixel.
Thanks,
Cheers, having me, boys.
What a great talk. We spoke a lot about Sage. You know, are we gonna start cooking some pork soon? Like, Sage goes very good with pork.
Does it?
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
It's like a cooking reference. No, I'm not familiar.
Sure, look, you can just try it with lamb. You're New Zealand, bro. You got enough lamb over there.
I'll take your word for it.
You take my word for it.
It should be very interesting coming up this weekend as well. Looking forward to seeing how teams want to be doing with Sage, and all that kind of stuff like that. By the way, we didn't get to go into this into any detail, but Riot released top 100 players in APAC, and there's some good names in there. I think we mentioned like Direwolves have good individual players, but Lou and Ninim are in the top 10. So Lou number 5, Ninim number 7. Lou's a number 1 ranked player in all of Oceania for like ranked. So I mean that was quite interesting. I looked through that, and I don't know how seriously people are taking ranked in terms of how much they're trying to grind, especially once you hit Radiant. I know a lot of players, once they hit Radiant, they just make a new account and go Radiant again, which is probably why Plix isn't in the top 100. He's probably like just remaking an account every single time. But
he's probably got like 7 accounts in the top 200 or something.
Who knows? But some quite a few names in the top 100, and we have a few in like the top 2, a couple in the top 2. Dizzy 12, Texter 24, RDW 52, Crunchy I believe is 54, and then there's a few more after that in the top 100. So there's a couple of us in there.
And obviously that's not only the ones that Kevin and I could ID. There's probably some guys on Smurfs, and if so, congratulations for being in the top 100. Hopefully, episode 2 will bring across a leaderboard where we can actually track this more accurately live. Anyways, that is it for us tonight at Run It Back. Thank you so much for joining us again. Oh, hold on.
One other thing is if you watch the show, you probably know already because you're part of the team scrimming. But if you're looking for like a Discord group to join in terms of like a community, the OS Grim Discord is now like more like a community Discord, which I think is a really positive change moving forward, because now you kind of have like a hub for esports. You have like a hub for Valorant esports in the region that people can come and hang out and have a chat, and you can get look for teams recruitment, look for scrims as well for any sort of level. It's not just
for interviews. You're gonna be nabbing players off the left, right, and center.
Just be part of the community in general. I kind of felt this was a positive move because this is where most of the community was in terms of the competitive side anyway, and now we're kind of just open. Now it's just kind of being opened up to anyone that's wanting to take part. So I think building this Discord is going to be really positive for the region. So if you're not in it, link is in the chat. Make sure you head on over and join up and say hi and whatever.
Be sure to ping Avril incessantly. He loves waking up to Discord DMs in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I got plenty of people I wouldn't mind blocking. So please go ahead.
But yes, please be sure to join this community. And look, while you're joining that community, be sure to join the Snowball one as well. You can check us out on basically every social media site at Snowball Esports. That's our handle on Twitter and Instagram, I think, and Facebook. And also be sure to check out the website, snowballesports.com. Most recent Valorant piece that we've got up on there is the freshest interview from Fun Crew. So if you're looking into who the hell Fun Crew is like we were, go check that out. It's a wonderful story about his journey from the top of FIFA to the top of Valorant. That's all we've got for you this week. Next week, we'll be back same time, same place, Wednesday, 8 p.m. AEDT, and to talk more Oceanic Valorant. Until then, be sure to watch First Strike, and we'll catch you next week.